to actually make a reservation with an operator, and then it took 2 operators to connect you to talk to your family back home. So, I literally was cut off from everybody and everything I knew, and was halfway around the world. And I think it took me many, many years to appreciate what that did for me, for my life, my personality, and career, and that kind of thing. That it made me a very strong person to take yourself and put yourself in a situation like that and make the most of it. And I don't know that I did make the most of it because, I was very frightened of many things, but I did work while I was there. I had lots and lots of experiences. I made lots of friends. But the title, let me get to the title. That comes from a recurring nightmare that I used to have, and I had it for many years after I returned home, where I'm walking down one of the big, massive boulevards in Tehran, and they have many big boulevards, and I notice people are staring at me and pointing, and I look down, and I'm naked. And so I try to run into a nearby store or somewhere to get out of the attention and get something on me, and nobody will let me in. And then usually about that time I wake up in a cold sweat. And I did that while I was there, and I did it, like I said, for many years after. Wow. And so, you can analyze dreams all day long, but, to me that was me being very vulnerable, naked to the world, worried about what people are thinking, saying, being scared of where I am, finding Tehran to be a very, very frightening place, and in some ways it was. But, in the end, if you read the book, you'll find that I credit my time there very much with my becoming who I became. And that, I did have a 30-year career on the air. That's not an easy thing to maintain a broadcasting career, and many other things. And I travel the world. I travel the world now. I've been to 80 countries, all 7 continents, all 50 states. There's nothing I love more than travel. I have a real passion for it. I encourage it strongly in many ways because it is an education like none other. You learn not just about a place, you learn about the culture, you learn about the people. If we all travel a little bit more and learned about other people in the world, I think we'd all get along a whole lot better because it's really hard to dislike someone that you get to know or that you know something about and that you have a lot in common with. And we do. We went to Cuba recently, learned all about communism down there. We just recently did an Eastern European trip and learned all about what the Soviet Union did to so many of the countries in the Eastern Bloc. Evil stuff. I grew up knowing communism was bad. I had no idea how bad it was until you talk to somebody who lived under it, or you go to one of their museums and you see the pictures and that sort of thing. And so, I think that travel is so important, and not everybody can do it, not everybody wants to do it, but it is so important to learning about other people and engaging. And, I love the cultural differences. I love finding out
it's one of the very best things about travel is just watching, Now, one question that did come up, I've got a couple of friends that I play squash with that are from Iran. And they're obviously extremely careful to describe themselves as Persian, extremely pro-America. What was your experience about, and did you notice, and was there, or did you perceive a distinction about how the populace perceived America versus the government, or what we here perceive that the Iranians think of us? Talk about that if you have experience with that.
Well, first of all, while I was there, the Shah was still in power. So America was popular, and we were allies in, many things. The reason we were there was Bell Helicopters sold helicopters to Iran, to the Iranian government, and they needed people to teach English to be able to read the manuals and train them and that sort of thing. And so there were a lot of Americans there. I didn't live in a compound with them or anything. I lived with other Iranians. I had experiences on the street and that kind of thing that were unfriendly. I was pushed into a jube one time. I was followed and almost
you were pushed into a what?
attacked. I was Jube. It's one of their. It's a very, very deep gutter that runs through the city of Tehran, all the way from higher in north, and it runs the water through, and it's deep. It's like, it's a couple of feet deep. So if you fall into a Jube, you know it.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I just didn't understand what you said. I thought we were going anti-Semiteville here.
No, Jube. I'm so sorry. I should have said that B a little bit better. A Jube, Jube.
You were pushed into a Jew. Oh my God.
I was pushed into a Jube. Yes. So anyway, so things did happen, and there, you are talking a Muslim country that are not always real friendly to women. And I did not wear a chador or anything like that. And sometimes I didn't dress appropriately, and I learned quickly to dress appropriately on the street. So I had things happen. But in general, the Iranian people were very friendly. They liked Americans. They liked Americans a lot. I have a great example. Do we have time for one of my favorite stories?
We have 5 minutes left, and we want to pimp your book and stuff at the end.
Okay, but let me tell my favorite story that I think exemplifies what I'm saying. Okay. I was home one day in our apartment. The phone rang. Phone never rang because we had friends, but they were all at work and nobody's going to call. So I answer the phone, and it's this guy speaking Farsi. And I told him I couldn't speak Farsi, and he asked if I spoke English, and in very broken English, he didn't speak good English at the time at all. He asked if I was American, and I said yes. And he asked if he could call me back sometime to talk to me some more.
Right.
And because he wanted to meet Americans. And so I said, I thought about it for a minute, and I, probably crazy, but I said, okay, sure, why not? And so this man, Mohammed, he would regularly call me. And then his English was getting better and better. And finally, he invited my husband and me out to dinner. We met him, this older, handsome Iranian man that became our friend. We'd have him to our place, and we'd go out to dinner with him. And
that's awesome.
Yeah. And so those are the kinds of things that are in my book, those kind of anecdotes and stories and all. And not every Iranian likes my book because I don't describe... I describe Tehran and some other things there. Initially, I'm remembering. I mean, it's my teenage memory of how I was impressed by the place, and I was not impressed favorably by it.
All right, so listen.
And so it was, so not every Iranian is going to like my book. Is my point. But if you get to the end, you'll see that I have great love for my time there because of what it did for me.
Good. Listen, this is Anne Craig Cinnamon. Anne, again, Walking Naked in Tehran. Love the title. Where can they get it?
They can get it at any regular online book retailer. You can get it at my website, which is walkingnakedintehran.com, or you can get it at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, any of those. So it is available everywhere.
Listen, this thing flew quickly. We will have to have you back because I want to hear more about Cuba, and you went to Israel. And you guys, every time I see a picture of you on my Facebook feed, you're in some other country. So, again, Anne Craig Cinnamon. Anne, thanks for joining us. Merry, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you. Thanks for having me. And I'd love to come back and talk Cuba. And we're going to Myanmar soon. So I'll have another little, dissident country I can talk about.
There we go. We'll talk soon.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And nice to meet you. Thank you for coming on.
Nice to meet you, Michael. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Dude, she's pretty interesting.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, I was thinking about I've got a list of places that I want to be going internationally. I used to travel internationally all the time in heaven for a while. Myanmar is not in my top 500. Let's just put it that way.
Mine either. The other thing that when she and I have, I don't want to say personally known each other for a long time, but we've known of each other for quite a while. But when she first told me quite a while back, listen, 80 countries, okay, I get that. But then when she said all 7 continents, the thing that I have never asked her about that I would like to is that would have to include Antarctica. What the hell was she doing in Antarctica?
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. Truly.
That was a fun interview, man. We will have to have her back.
Yeah.
Take us out, brother.
All right, so we've got another half hour left before our week-ending show concludes, much to the chagrin of my mom and perhaps maybe somebody else. But you've been listening to The Right Mics. Please call in the next half hour. We'd love to hear from you. 412-567-6879. And Fitzgerald, a couple of your comments we're going to talk about after the break. Thanks for listening. We'll be right back.
This is Vigilant Liberty Radio News from Independent Journal Review for December 23rd. President Obama has nominated Matthew Butler for a seat on a federal elections panel, the Election Assistance Commission. In this role, Butler would be part of election oversight activities, including the creation of guidelines and certifying voting systems. Butler's resume includes work with groups like Progressive Media USA, in which Butler says he, quote, rectified structural legal problem to avoid a potential $5 million IRS tax penalty. And this has sent up red flags for some critics, including former Federal Election Commissioner Hans von Spakovsky. They are calling on Butler to fully disclose his dealings with the IRS and point to Butler's lack of related experience and partisan work history with politically left-leaning organizations as cause to oppose his nomination. Days after the White House warned North Korea a proportional response to their cyber attack was coming, North Korea's internet service went down. Service was reportedly spotty for several days and is now apparently completely offline. Doug Mattery, director of internet analysis at Dyn Research, said it appeared to be a victim of a DDoS or distributed denial of service attack on their routers. No group is taking responsibility for the outage. A majority of North Koreans do not have internet access, so this outage is affecting government functions and the upper-class citizens. Milwaukee County District Attorney John Chisholm announced police officer Christopher Manny will not be charged for the April 30th shooting death of Dontre Hamilton. In his statement, Chisholm said, quote, based on all the evidence and analysis presented in this report, I come to the conclusion that Officer Manny's use of force in this incident was justified and self-defense, and that defense cannot be reasonably overcome to establish a basis to charge Officer Manny with a crime. The state of Wisconsin prepared for protests in the wake of the news, opening its Emergency Operations Center and putting the National Guard on standby to respond should the need arise. Reports of ISIS brutality involve new attacks on Christianity and Christian churches, with reports that converted churches in Iraq cities have been turned into torture chambers and prisons. One of the oldest Christian churches in Iraq, St. George's Monastery, has reportedly been turned into a detention center for women. Journalist Jürgen Taudenhofer spent 10 days with members of ISIS and reported that the most concerning thing about the group is their belief that, quote, all religions who agree with democracy must die. ISIS militants have also been pulling down church crosses and replacing them with their infamous black flag. This has been Amy Curtis with your Vigilant Liberty Radio News from Independent Journal Review for December 23rd.
Oh, I thought we were on air.
You are Right Mics with Mike Miller and Michael Hausum. Thank you so much for listening. Excuse our ever so tiny technical problems. If you would like to call in during this half hour of the show, which will be the last half hour until next Monday when we have a guest that I'm pretty excited about, Ricochet's John Gabriel. You probably, if you're on Twitter, know him as @XJohn. He's going to be on next Monday. That is our next live show. So I, Mike, and my mom will have to console themselves by just repeating previous episodes. Mike, are you back with us? Are we good?
I'm good to go, man. I'm typing you a message as we speak. Do not respond to it on the air.
Now, before we get on, during the last segment when Ann was on, listener Dan Fitzgerald was interacting with me on Twitter, and he was making reference to, from the early on in the segment, when we were talking about the police in New York City and such. And it's interesting. Dan is a retired police officer. And a couple of comments that he made were very interesting. One was that he said that the majority of